Hi, I'd like to give you an example of telling a customer bad news and how they handle it. Back in the 1990s, U.S. had negotiated a trade deal with Japan that allowed U.S. companies and Japanese buyers to import ice cream outside of quota, which meant that companies that had not had a chance to import ice cream in the past could import ice cream. So the retailers were very anxious to become importers as opposed to dealing through the channels that they had to go through in the past to get ice cream. So one of the big Japanese trading companies that we dealt with came to us. We had a good, strong relationship with them and said they wanted to buy ice cream. We worked out a deal with one of the local producers, planned the production, negotiated the contract, and consummated the contract with the buyer. Prior to production, the manufacturer realized about 5 weeks out that they weren't going to get the boxes, the cartons in time to meet the customer's demand for the shipment. Nothing we could do to speed that up. We informed the customer. Back in those days, it was via fax. We wrote a fax and sent it to them, documented that the fax had been sent. We talked to them on the phone and informed them that the product was going to be delayed. The problem is that the buyer that we were dealing with was a young trader, young buyer, who was trying to make a name and a reputation for himself. And he was nervous and anxious and didn't tell his end customer, the retailer. So the retailer planned his ads, planned his promotions, planned his distribution, got everything set for the shipment. When the shipment didn't go, the customer, the end customer in Japan, the retailer, realized the shipment hadn't gone, passed it on up the line, came back to us, and we knew that we had told the customer, we had proof and documentation on that. He knew that we had told him, he just refused to admit it and tell his customer. So to correct the problem, we booked air freight for 40,000 pounds of ice cream. So a lot of ice cream to send on an airplane, a lot of expense was spent to achieving the sales target and achieving the delivery that the customer had wanted. They placed their ad. They couldn't pull the ad. They would have, in Japan, they call it losing face. They would have lost integrity. They would have lost reputation with the customers. So the end customer, the retailer, and the consumer never knew that the product was sent by air freight that cost tens of thousands of dollars to get it there. Now in Japan, they have a strategy of employment for life. So the buyer that we were dealing with, the young man who was trying to make a name for himself, made a name, unfortunately wasn't the one he wanted. They kept him employed, but they demoted him. Last we heard, he had been moved up to Hokkaido, the northern island of Japan, where it's very cold, and spent his time during the days wrapping fish in one of the fish factories. So he still had a full-time employment, but because he didn't communicate effectively, because he didn't take the information that we'd given him about the shipment. And that can happen on a lot of products where beyond the control of you and beyond the control of your packing house or your manufacturer, things can go wrong. And when they do, it's important to tell your customer. It could be weather related, particularly in agriculture. It could be trucking. Here in the States, we have times when there are no trucks available, and we tell a customer we can get them something in a certain period of time, but the trucks don't perform. And it's best when that happens to be proactive, to inform your customer of the problems and keep them informed every step of the way. In this case, in the Japanese ice cream case, our customer didn't do that, and he paid the ultimate penalty, or at least a significant penalty, working up in Hokkaido for a good portion of his career.